Welcome to the new section of the Rowland and Grieve show. Today we're doing Bed Down, Do Badminton, and I'm here with Simon Grieve and Tom Rowland, who both did badminton horse trials last year in the 5-star, and Simon is doing it this year as well. I've got some questions for you guys about the event. Badminton is one of only 2 5-star events in the UK, and it's obviously a really prestigious event, and so many people go and watch it, either if it's actually at the event or on the TV. But what do you actually have to do to qualify to get there?
So in order to qualify, obviously you start right from the beginning, starting with your real young horses, going through, you do your B90 and then you build it up, and then the horses have to have completed a 4-star 3-day event, 4-star long 3-day event. Have to have completed 2, and that's for a standard 5-star qualification. So that would be for any in the world, because there's also Adelaide and Kentucky, and where else is there?
Lamula and Po in Europe.
That's it. And but for badminton, it's because it's just got that little bit extra edge to it. You have to be in the top 50% of that 3-star.
Oh wow.
4-star, sorry. And then, or you have to be in the top 50% of a 5-star, any of the other 5-stars. So it's slightly more complex to qualify for.
Yeah. And it runs over, is it 5 days, I think it is? The first day is the trot up.
Yeah.
So how do you guys plan your outfits? Is it like a big thing you have to think about in a long time in advance?
Well, it's turned into like a bit of a catwalk, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, it's quite a big deal, yeah.
I've never... Have you ever won any of the prizes for...
I haven't, but I'm going to plug a nice local company to me called Turner and Hares that dressed me last year, and I was a bit cross that I didn't get it, but there we go. I was probably a bit biased, but I gave it my best shot. But there's always someone that looks cooler, isn't there? So.
I got dressed by a company called Butler Stewart last year, and they're doing it again. They do tweed stuff.
You look very sharp, yeah.
But they're in keeping with the whole thing.
Yeah. I think they went for Alex Bragg's Peaky Blinder looks in the end with his.
Yes, loads of people did that last year, didn't they?
Yeah,
It'd be interesting to see what they do this time.
The caps and all that. So.
Have you had the time to think about what you're wearing this year?
It'll be. I'll leave it up to Butler Stewart. They'll decide.
I thought you'd been planning it for months.
And hopefully it'll be cool. Yeah, months.
So the day 2 and 3 is dressage day. And Tom, how do you prepare for the dressage?
I think it depends on your horse. The horse that I've had actually reacts really well to crowds, so he almost does a better dressage test when he's a bit fresh, when he's a bit alive. Yeah. He was on Friday afternoon last year, so that's notoriously got the biggest crowd, so that actually worked to my advantage. You see some horses that are raring to go and are absolutely wild, and the riders might be working them quite a lot. You've got to be careful, because even with the fresh one, I don't think you want to make them sore and tight through their back from having done hours and hours of dressage, so you might vary the work. So I think by the time you're at badminton, you hopefully know your horse well enough to know what approach works best for your horse. I think you'll see different riders doing a whole different range of different preparations that week.
And it depends very much on how the horses react when they're there as well. There's one thing with badminton that I've found, I don't know whether you think it, but the stables are very, very quiet because it's such a huge event. Thousands of people go, and the Tradesdown village is huge, and there's a massive atmosphere. But then you go through the arch into the stables, and it's so much quieter, isn't it? Even on cross country day, it's really quite quiet. And then you go out, and it depends on how they respond to that, and you have to hack quite a long way to get to the dressage through quite an atmospheric bit. So that's just gauging it all.
So in the lead up to the event, how often do you run through the dressage test at home? Do you run through it in the movements, or do you do the entire thing?
I tend to do different movements at different times, and yes, I will run through the test normally with my trainer. You know what? You don't over practice it, do you?
I think normally most people would stay clear of doing the whole test through and through, because the horse gets to know it. But I've got a horse actually who's quite sensitive and a bit of a worrier, and I really hope for him to be at badminton next year. Maybe you've got a whole year to get through, and he's quite strange because he takes real confidence in actually knowing his test. I learned that with him last year, so he would be an exception.
Yeah, it so depends on your horse.
In that I will run through that, so he really knows where he's going and he gets confidence from that.
And then we have day 4, which is obviously the most exciting day. Come on, it's cross country. What's it like doing that course, the iconic badminton course? Is it the most amazing feeling? Tell me about that.
It's fairly terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's on the Saturday morning, there's always a real kind of somber feel, and everyone's kind of in it together, and you know, and we all talk about the course, and people walk course together, and then the nerves really do start kicking in, and it's even more intimidating, isn't it? Because you've got some people that you've obviously, you know, my idols from when I was a kid, and they're still doing it, and they're still there, and they look like they're absolutely terrified as well. And so it's quite, you know, it is nerve-wracking. But you've kind of got to try and focus on the job. And I walk the course first thing in the morning when it's quiet, and then watch the first couple if I can, and then go and do the business.
The great thing about eventing is that it's such a community, and like Simon says, there are riders that have been there many, many times, but they're very happy to share their experience, and in many senses they're kind of in the same boat. So I find it amazing how some of the riders can be so quiet and almost a bit timid, and then they get on their horse and they're like a weapon.
Yeah, come into their own, don't they?
Off they go, and it's incredible the way they can be quite reserved. And
it's interesting how Mark Todd, retiring last year, he was interviewed, and they said, "Oh, is there anything you're going to miss?" And he said, "The Saturday morning of the Big 5 Star, I won't miss that." And which is interesting because he always looks so relaxed.
Yeah. It must be terrifying. I can't imagine how you guys feel before you go out on that course. I don't know if I could ever do that.
It's all relative though as well. It's like, you know, if you feel like you're prepared, and if you're on a horse that's been there and done that level before, then you can take that bit more confidence. But yeah, it's pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
Nothing prepares you for it, but like Simon says, don't forget that most of the time you've had those horses for a long, long time. You know, most people have produced their 5-star horses from scratch, so you know your partner very well. And it's a big step up, but you know, in this country we've got the likes of Bramham and Blenheim or Buccleuch or Ballindennis, or any of those events which abroad, which will have prepared you to a degree very, very well. So the horses will be familiar with crowds, familiar with it, maybe not to quite that level, but it's not, you're not hopefully chucking them in the deep end 100%.
I guess you guys both know your horses inside out, basically, how exactly they'll react. Speaking of how they react, the next day, on show jumping day, how do you ride that? Because obviously they could be really tired after cross country. How does that like?
Yeah, they're bound to be tired, but you need to. My way of doing is that I'll walk them out first thing in the morning to really loosen them off, take them for a bit of a graze. Sometimes I'll ride them. It depends on the horse, depends on how they are, and it depends on how they're feeling that day. And you have to sort of, again, it goes back to knowing your horse. And how they're feeling. I've had it when they've been really, really sprightly on the last day of the 3-day event, which I wasn't expecting at all. Mine
actually jumps better on the last day. I think he can be a bit spooky, and it actually has settled him down a bit. One of the best bits of advice I got was in France in 2015 from a Mr. Simon Grieve, who said, after I'd gone and had a number of fences down, make sure that you ride the horse with a bit more leg on the last day, because you know they're going to need it. They're going to be a bit more tired. You've got to have an extra gear in there and a bit more punch.
Yeah.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
yeah, you did. It was very helpful. I haven't forgotten it.
And how big are the show jumps in a 5-star?
Metre 30.
Well, that's huge. So they kind of pick up their feet for that, even when they're tired. So I think that's all we got time for now. Thank you for answering the questions, and I'll leave you guys to talk about the fences you've jumped.